You have probably heard the legend of the Philadelphia experiment, a Navy warship that turned invisible and teleported. But the most disturbing part of this 80-year-old story isn't about teleportation. It's about the whispered secret of what happened to the sailors. The ones allegedly fused into the cold, hard steel of their own ship. Let's set the scene. It's 1943, the height of World War II. The US Navy is desperate for an edge against German U-boats in the Atlantic. According to the legend, this led to a top-secret project, codenamed Project Rainbow. The goal? To use Albert Einstein's unified field theory to create an electromagnetic cloak, making a ship invisible to enemy radar, and maybe even to the naked eye. Of course, there's no credible evidence this project or Einstein's involvement ever happened. The story goes that on October 28, 1943, the USS Eldridge became the test subject at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. As huge generators hummed to life, witnesses supposedly saw a strange, greenish-blue fog swallow the ship. First, it vanished from radar, then it disappeared from sight completely. But the legend claims the Eldridge didn't just become invisible, it teleported. It allegedly flashed into existence hundreds of miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, for a few minutes before vanishing again and reappearing in Philadelphia. On the surface, it seemed like an unbelievable success. But when the fog cleared, the horrifying cost of tampering with reality was revealed. The story of a teleporting ghost ship is wild enough. But the details that turned this into an enduring horror legend came from a single, questionable source. In the 1950s, a man named Carl Allen, using the alias Carlos Allende, sent bizarre letters to a UFO researcher. Allen claimed he was a witness, serving on a nearby merchant ship, the SS Andrew Furuseth. His letters painted a nightmarish picture. When the Eldridge returned, some sailors had simply vanished. Others were nauseous and deeply disoriented. But the worst fates were for those caught in the field. Allen described to sailors fused into the steel deck, their bodies embedded in the metal, but still alive. He told of another man with his hand melted into a steel bulkhead, a living part of the ship. According to Allen's uncorroborated account, their flesh had mingled with the ship on a molecular level. Later additions to the legend included men rematerializing inside out or spontaneously bursting into flames. It's vital to remember that these gruesome stories come only from Allen's letters, with no other witnesses or documents to back them up. The alleged horror wasn't just physical. The legend claims survivors suffered devastating psychological trauma. Those who seemed physically fine were said to have gone insane, babbling about seeing through walls and time coming unstuck. But the strangest supposed side effect was something called the freeze. A crewman would be going about his day, then suddenly freeze in place, becoming invisible and intangible, like a ghost, for minutes or even hours before fading back into view. Allen claimed other sailors developed a laying on of hands ritual, rushing to touch a freezing man to ground him in reality. Imagine the terror of knowing that at any moment, you could simply phase out of existence. Some sailors were said to have walked through a wall one day and never returned. So, what is the official story? The US Navy has always denied the Philadelphia experiment, dismissing it as pure science fiction. And unlike the legend, they have the documents to back it up. For starters, the Office of Naval Research, the agency supposedly behind the project, wasn't even created until 1946, 3 years after the experiment. More damning are the ship logs. The official record for the USS Eldridge shows it wasn't in Philadelphia on October 28, 1943. It was on a shakedown cruise in the Bahamas. The logs for Carl Allen's ship also confirm it was nowhere near Philadelphia. So where did the legend come from? The likely origin is far more mundane, a real naval procedure called degaussing. By wrapping a ship in electrical cables, the Navy could generate a magnetic field that made it invisible to German magnetic mines. A Navy veteran from the shipyard confirmed this classified procedure could create a strange greenish glow around the hull. It's highly probable that Carl Allen, a man with a documented history of mental illness, saw this glow, heard sailors talk of making a ship invisible, and his imagination filled in the terrifying blanks. So on one hand, you have the legend, a tale of teleportation, horrific accidents, and a massive cover-up, all originating from the unsubstantiated letters of a single man. On the other, you have official records, ship logs, and scientific reality, all pointing to this being a hoax. The historical evidence is clear. There was no secret experiment, no teleportation, and no sailors fused with steel. The Philadelphia experiment is a myth, born from a misunderstanding of a real procedure called degaussing. But the legend itself tells us something powerful. It taps into our fears of unchecked science and secret government power. It's a story so bizarre and terrifying that it has refused to die, evolving into one of history's greatest urban legends. The real story isn't about physics gone wrong, but about a story that was too good and too horrifying to ever fade away. What do you think? Is the factual, mundane origin of the myth just as interesting as the wild legend? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to explore more of the world's most enduring mysteries, make sure to subscribe.